28 Days Later has gone on to be one of the most iconic zombie films ever made. I haven't seen the movie in over 20 years, so I figured let's go back through the series in preparation for 28 Years Later and see if this movie holds up. Now, this is a very strange film. I'd call this film an anomaly. The things that make this movie so good in the memory of so many people, I think, are actually the same exact things that make this movie kind of a chore to watch in 2025. I feel like people remember this movie for two reasons. First off, it stars Cillian Murphy. This is his real first breakout role where he got noticed, and he has gone on to blossom, obviously, in Hollywood. He's won an Oscar. He's one of the most respected actors in all of Hollywood. The second thing being, we basically all universally agree, if you've seen this movie was shot on a fucking potato. It's absolutely terrible to look at. This movie looks like a 480p video you ripped off of V-Bombs World in middle school. But that same cinematic misfire of the way this movie looks, I think, is actually what adds to the campiness and the atmosphere and kind of what made this movie stand out and so many people like it to begin with. If it didn't look the way it did, I'm not sure anybody would really be talking about this movie still. As for a brief plot synopsis, what the movie's about, it's known as a zombie movie, but I wouldn't even say that. It's more of like a play on rabies, just a viral transmission through blood. The movie starts off, you have this group of people who, I'm not even sure if they're poachers or activists, but for some reason they mess with these gorillas who are being experimented on. And they have this like rabid contagion in their blood that's actually gone on to be known as rage. And when this gets transmitted to humans, basically all of society collapses, and the movie takes place 28 days later. It was a little bit strange to return to this film not remembering the opening, because after the Walking Dead TV show came out, this movie's cold opening is almost shot for shot The Walking Dead's season opener. The movie picks up, you have Jim, played by Cillian Murphy. He wakes up in this hospital after a biking event. He doesn't know where anybody is. It's an absolute desolate society. But eventually he goes on to meet this band of survivors, and he figures out and has it explained to them that this contagion has basically ransacked all of society. So again, very similar to how The Walking Dead starts. I would call this entire movie, though, a post-apocalyptic drama with elements of horror sprinkled in. Or maybe a better term would be like an existential drama. This movie is just taking a look at what would happen if all of society degraded and was taken over because of a contagion, which we're not too far removed from, hence COVID, the way that whole thing went down. The entire movie has this very gritty guerrilla style filmmaking that just feels like you or I could have filmed this movie, which again, as I said in the opener, really adds to the campiness and the atmosphere of this. I don't know how it manages to do so, but somehow that style of filmmaking, being as ineffective as it is to look at, as annoying and a chore as it is to look at, makes you kind of feel more connected to the world they're trying to build. This absolutely ransacked, degraded society where nothing is good, it has just fallen. The way it looks really kind of sells you on that. Again, it's hard to explain unless you've seen the movie, but the single thing I find to be the biggest chore and annoyance watching this film is probably its strongest point. And then the other thing to talk about when paired with the way this movie looks that I said is a total anomaly going back and revisiting is the pace of this film. I would call the pace of this film a mess, but the fact that it is a mess is kind of what gives it its charm. I find this movie to have no in between. This movie bounces back and forth between insufferably boring to incredibly tense. And the reason I bring this up is because I feel like it is done purposely. A lot of movies, it's very obvious where the pace is going to go based on the situation and where the characters are at. This movie's strongest suit is that you never know what's going to happen because the pace is so sporadic and it's so wonky and it kind of makes no sense for the vast majority of what you're watching. Shit just happens out of the blue. You'll have characters having a passive conversation, they'll be watching TV, and then zombies will just crash through a door and you have a chase scene immediately. There's no forewarning to it, which makes it feel like everything is very sporadic and it's just, you have no idea what's happening, which keeps you on your toes. So again, reiterating, the way this movie looks, terrible. Somehow it works though, because it's very gritty, immerses you in the world. Pace of this movie, absolutely terrible, because it ranges from insufferably boring to incredibly tense, but it also keeps you on your toes because you have no idea what's going to go on. They go 0 to 100 really quick. You don't find out too much about some of the secondary characters, but this movie is paced, as I said, kind of slow during the down spurts. And because of this, you get to know almost every character who has screen time to some degree. And you have two main characters for the most part, Jim and Selena, who are polar opposites. Jim is still a good guy. He woke up in the hospital. He has no idea what the fuck is going on. But he's paired up with Selena, who's trying to help him survive, and she is the exact opposite of him. She is this person in these movies completely broken. All she cares about is ruthless survival. You have the two of them bouncing back and forth off of each other. You have one person who's basically pure morality and one person who is pure survival. I actually like that setup because when you pair it with the simplicity of the way this movie is made, the way this pace is sporadic, and the simplicity of the characters, You just get an overall very, very simple movie that I think for the most part, if you enjoy the story on, will be pretty effective. Doubling down on those negatives, I do find huge chunks of this movie to be very boring. Like, not just slowly paced, boring. Like, I'm not joking. Out of an almost 2-hour runtime, I think legitimately 25 to 30 minutes of this movie is just watching characters walk around a desolate city in silence. So if that's your cup of tea and you find that to be immersive, more power to you. To me, it feels very derivative given that this is 25 years old and we have seen so many zombie movies that do this large scale of a desolate city. As much as it's immersive, it's equally annoying. So overall, guys, I'm going to keep this review very brief. I don't think this movie ages particularly well. I think there are very, very strong parts to it, and I think this is a strong zombie movie, if you even want to call it a zombie movie. But I have some glaring issues with it, and I think this is a movie that more so set standards and precedents for what was to come in zombie movies with these fast, rabid zombies than a movie that actually in and of itself holds up nowadays after 25 years. But still, if you are trying to get into this series because the new movie is coming out later this week, I recommend you check this film out. You can definitely do worse. It's just a movie I have a good time with, nothing more, nothing less. So comment down below. Let me know what you think of this series. Do you like this film? Do you like 28 Weeks Later more? I'm going to get to that one later tomorrow. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, join me down below. I love talking movies with you, but I will see you in the next review. Peace!